Hello, Gerraint. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today on the Housing Sector Podcast. Before we begin, would you like to give a little bit of background about who you are and why you can officially talk to us today in your element?
No problem at all. Hi, Ben. I'm Gerraint. I'm the Exec Director of Growth and Development at Platform Housing Group. We're a large Midlands-based landlord. We manage 50,000 homes. We build somewhere between 1,500, 1,600 new homes a year. My background has been in construction for well over 30 years. Uh, I've been a global real estate strategist for Vodafone, worked in 22 countries, building all sorts. I think the only thing I haven't built is a harbour and an airport so far. And then in 2008, I moved into housing sector. So I've worked for Barratt, David Wilson, Keep Moat. But the vast majority of those years since 2011 have been in the affordable housing sector, either being the MD of a private house building subsidiary or running the growth and development piece that I do now, which is the part of the business that buys land, develops houses through different methodology, and then hands them over for rental management or sale, shared ownership.
Okay, and Labour have come in. This is we're end of October 2024. Labour have now come in and pledged to build X amount of new homes. What is the current target for the UK to build new homes?
1.5 million in 5 years. So bear in mind, we're already, they've been in power 6 months, something like that, maybe less. Yeah. But anyway, the B of bang is gone. And if you're being realistic about it, I love the rhetoric. I love the ambition. I love the statement. Obviously, when the budget comes out this week, we'll see where that's heading. But to build 1.5 million homes in the 5-year tenure as a government, when nothing extra really will be contributed in the next 2 years, because the planning system is what it is. You're not going to be able to snap your fingers now and start building new houses. So there's going to be a considerable back end to this. And 3, 4, 5 years out, you may see a difference in the number of homes being built. But again, in the pressure I've seen over the past few days, that they're going to put more money into the planning system, recruit more planners. They take time to train. So it's not like there's a magic wand, you can do it overnight. And it's great to hear things like the new towns commission and looking at how we could build new towns, because it's not just about the houses. To make really sustainable communities, you've got to think about the infrastructure. It's access to schools, access to employment, access to healthcare, active travel solutions. So it's not just about boxes on a hillside. It really is about the whole picture, which I'm interested to see what comes out of the budget this week.
So let's say for a minute that there was going to be 1.5 million homes built in the next 5 years, 1.5 million. Would that be enough?
No, we've underdelivered for decades. And I think that the other point I would make is it depends what homes we build. The affordability piece is still a massive issue. We've got 130,000 people in temporary accommodation every night in England. So you've still got that problem in Wales, you've still got it in Northern Ireland and Scotland. And the fact is, if we've underdelivered for so long, and this is another thing I like to mention, if we've been in a housing crisis for 20 years, it's not a crisis. It's either the way it is or it's a catastrophe. And I'm going with catastrophe because we just haven't got enough for the right tenure. I think we are overly focused on building more homes for sale through the 6 biggest builders, which is really the case. We're not finding routes to work in partnership with local authorities, other housing associations, and the private developers, because they are a massive part in the infrastructure of building new homes. And I think that lag is I think it would take a two-term tenure, not easy to say that, Ben, right. 2-term tenure for Labour to really get that big shift in the way we do it. And that's what it'll probably need.
And you mentioned there's a sort of skill shortage. How come we don't have enough planners coming through? And what other skill shortages are there?
There's skill shortages across the board. And I think it's 8 years ago Brexit occurred. So we can still harp on about the fact that a lot of highly skilled people from the construction sector left the UK. That's still resonant and relevant. The other thing is, I think that housing has not done the best selling job to young people and getting them interested in housing and house building as an option. Because housing, the housing sector, housing associations, of incredibly complex organizations. There's lots of different roles, from lawyers to land buyers to tenancy support teams. It's a really fantastic place to operate. It's very rewarding as well. Then you've got the skilled labor on site. You've got the vast majority that you're seeing now in the skilled trades are over 55, and that is quite daunting. You haven't got that really great cascade of people coming in to be plumbers and carpenters and bricklayers. And let's face it, would you want to stand in the field in December up to your knees in mud, putting bricks on other bricks? It's not as attractive as other careers out there, but it is incredibly exciting. It's a great thing to be doing. So I think there's a big part of that. The planning piece is a slightly different matter. The planning system itself, not just the number of planners, needs to be resolved. You've got what we basically have is ward councillors sitting on development committees making decisions on multi-million pound investments, whether it's housing, whether it's industry, whether it's infrastructure. And that's a big challenge for everybody. Again, it's about planning being exciting. Working and providing planning decisions is, I think, a fantastic thing to be doing. But again, local authority or private sector fund money. If you're a young person and you're a planner, the private sector can be more rewarding. And I think that's something they've got to overcome, pay the right amount of money for the right skills and give them the freedom to get on with the job.
So I think that was in the press about a month ago now, was that a lot of the private builders were struggling to sell. They have the remit that they have to build so many affordable homes when they build a new housing estate, but they were struggling to sell them to housing associations for them to manage, and were as such looking to come involved in affordable housing themselves. What do you know about that?
That's an interesting one, actually, because there's not, again, funny enough, we talk about this a fair bit, that there's a number of reasons I can see why Section 106 is not as attractive to some. Part of it is, without a doubt, a lot of housing associations that were developing at scale have had to review their spending and capability because of capacity issues. They've got existing houses they've got to maintain. They've got to overcome challenges with damp and mold and potentially underinvestment. On top of that, there's the decarbonisation. We're building homes now with no gas boilers. So it's about having to retrofit your existing stock and keep those standards up. So you can see that some housing associations have to choose, can they develop and maintain and improve their stock and do regeneration, and some of them can't do both. So that's one part of it. For us, the journey is to build more via buying land ourselves and working in partnership with a developer, private developers, SMEs to build it out for us. Package deals where people, again, come to us and they basically build the type of houses we want in the locations we need them in. And then Section 106 still forms part of our program, but it has to be the right quality, on time, at the right cost. And I would say that one of the problems we see is the quality, not everywhere, but in many Section 106 properties that are handed over, have too high defect levels. We're trying to maintain 2 defects per home maximum. So when our customers are moving in, they get in a brand new house with as few snags as you can possibly get. And what we've seen is we don't always get that quality, and we don't always get it on time. Whereas if we've got more control over that land buying process, tendering the work, managing the program with the developer, it gives us that magic 3: time, cost, and quality, which is what we're looking for.
Yeah. I'm in a reasonably new build here, and some of the problems that we've had, it's worrying when you think the building's, I think, 12 years old now. Yeah, there's a lot of issues. And of course, when we build cheap, we're just passing on the debt further down the line, aren't we? Which then becomes the big burden again further down the line. So look, what are these young people doing if they're not getting into building and planning? And when I was at school, it was very much, there were people who were definitely going to be bricklayers and scaffolders and carpenters. What are they all doing now? What is the draw to the younger?
What did they say, that the youngsters in school today, they'll be doing jobs we haven't even invented yet?
Yeah,
there's a lot of different stuff out there. There's lawyers and intellectual property looking at AI. There's such a diverse opportunity of exciting things out there, and engineering, STEM, all that sort of stuff is out there. And I think that there is a scarcity of people in some places as well. If you think about it, it's not just you compare building in the southeast of England around London compared to the rural areas of Herefordshire or Lincolnshire or, even Shropshire, where you've got rural communities, and getting the people into the right place is difficult anyway. So it's not just the young people changing direction. They tend to go where the work is, and that causes problems for the rural communities as well, which again, going back to the Section 106 issue, if you're building affordable homes, there's got to be a demand for affordable homes, because not everybody wants to live away from the opportunity for healthcare, education, employment. And that's why you get things like commuter poverty. So it's that bit where the housing associations genuinely think about the whole structure of a new community and how we can make sure that is well supported going forward. But in terms of the youngsters, there's a lot of other career opportunities out there. I think it's an exciting one to go into construction. And the more we move to, I hope we'll move more to modular construction, MMC, factory built homes, controlling the quality, reducing the carbon, reducing waste. You could say it's a better working environment. It's in a factory. Some of these that I've seen have been absolutely outstanding. The sad thing is, every time you open up the newspaper these days, it seems to be one of them in trouble financially. And I think there's a part for the government to play there in about making sure they've got a pipeline and proper investment. So that would be good to see.
I was going to ask you, with emerging technologies, what the bricks we've talked about, laying brick after brick. What are the plans? What is the emerging technology? I hear a lot about timber frames and carbon-free buildings.
Yeah, well, one of the things we're working towards is building zero bills homes for our customers that are in rented homes. But I've been out to see Daiwa House Construction in the factory in the Netherlands, where they bought Jan Schnell. They're a very, very well set up organization. They've been building modular housing in Japan for decades, really high quality, innovative designs, where you have a small residential estate. They have large water coffer dams underneath that get heated up with solar heating through the day. That's passed back through the houses at night to warm the houses through a communal heating system, which, it's fantastic. But they've been doing it for ages.
Yeah.
I think, more of the category 1, category 2 modular. So category 1 being where the pods are built in the factory, brought to site, bolted together. And then the others are panelized systems where, again, as much off-site manufacturing as possible is done, but that wouldn't be the 3D built house that comes out the back on the back of a lorry. And I think there's a big place for that, a big part for that to play in mass production of high quality homes.
We touched on the commuter issue there, and seaside towns for me, and perhaps yourself. I've always had a love for seaside towns, and particularly in England. I mean, they're dying, and they're sort of considered ghost towns, and sort of they're becoming crime ridden. What about a rejuvenation process? With now people able to work from home, and then much easier than it was ever before. Are we not able to sort of rejuvenate seaside coastal towns and bring in whole new commuter belts?
As always, the intention would be fantastic, and yet the problem is quite complex, as you say. If you look at a lot of Northern European countries, they have quite a high rental model. So when organizations move on, the mines shut down, shipyards shut down, people migrate to where the new work is. It seems to be a theme here, going to new work. So they will give up, move, and rent somewhere else. If you own your own house, and it happened with the Welsh valleys, the miners in the Welsh valleys, when the mines shut down, they owned their houses in the valleys. They had a very strong sense of community. They didn't want to leave. So it was difficult for them to go to the places where the work was, predominantly South Wales. So there is that part. But it also Homes England, who we are obviously a strategic partner with, are focusing more on regeneration as well. And I think that regeneration piece is really important. If you're an existing landlord, it's important to rejuvenate, reinvest in those properties. But it's not just about housing. Good solutions is not just about housing, as I said. It's access to all the big three things: employment, education, and health. It's having good quality homes, good travel infrastructure. Yes, and working from home is an option, but not for everybody. And certain types of job, it wouldn't be. But again, seaside towns, they are struggling to keep their young people there. And ironically, even if they're underpopulated, they can still be really expensive to buy a home. So young people are being forced out. There's a pull to go to workplaces and a force that they can't actually buy there anyway. So All of that has to be addressed. And true regeneration isn't just about knocking down old houses and building new houses. It's about finding a solution that works for all those tiers that we've talked about.
And again, with my ignorance, when I look at sort of high streets now, and we see, there's barber shops, there's nail shops, there's coffee shops, but there's lots of empty units there, and some pretty big buildings. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in Aylesbury, and there's been some substantial empty office and empty shopping buildings there for many a year. What's the rejuvenation plans for those? Is that feasible?
But again, if you think about the old way where people used to live and work in the same town, that was a very sustainable infrastructure of that time. Where you walk down a high street now and you look up, you'll see most shops have 2 or 3, 4 stories of flats above them that aren't occupied for all the reasons you've said. You have antisocial behaviour sometimes in city centres at night. People don't feel safe. The properties aren't well maintained because the landlord's key focus may be on the shop where it's getting a lot of revenue from. Access to the flats can be difficult. I think that, along with building new homes, revisiting the unused housing stock that we have has got to be done, but funding that is quite tricky. It's quite expensive. Retrofitting, making sure you got the building safe, fire safety, fire escapes, working over tops of flats. There's all these complexities you don't get on a new where you've got a nice brown field that you can go start building houses on. Yeah. You're talking about existing buildings being remodeled to meet modern housing needs. And I think there's a place for that, but it can be expensive, can be time consuming. Sometimes it requires bold local authorities to help developers do it, because you have people that, you may have to CPO homes, shops, buildings that, can't be bought on the open market and can't be regenerated. And I think there's a big part. And again, when I said about bringing multiple agencies together, that's exactly the sort of thing they should be looking at.
And what's platform housing? What's your target for new homes to be built this year?
Well, 1,600 starts on site.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get close to 1,500 completions. So that's what we've committed to keep doing continuously. And at the moment, we're being very successful. I've got a really good team. We're working with some really good partners, and we're pretty comfortable that 3 to 5 years out, we're still going to be hitting those numbers.
Excellent. And what apart from your team, what have you done different to pass on some advice to some that might be struggling with their new builds?
Be friendly to your chief financial officer.
Right.
Have a chief executive who's pro development. Get things right. I mean, the worst thing for boards is when you got high risk situations where you don't convert an opportunity properly. You invest a lot of money, hundreds of millions a year we spend on building new homes, and boards have to have the comfort that a really good team with risk awareness, good governance, the right partners. We monitor the financial performance of ourselves and our partners. So if anything's getting a bit squeaky, we get involved very early on. And I think without the team, a really building high quality teams is really important at every position in the organizational structure within the development function. Understanding what matters, making sure we're focused on the customer first, and everything else follows on behind.
Okay, well, that's a nice one to end on. It's worrying that Labour's pledge isn't achievable, and even if it was, it wouldn't be enough.
Well, it's 1.5 million, and you can't press the trigger now, and you won't really get additionality for over 2 years. If you're being realistic, that's going to leave about 1.2 million houses to be built in 3 years. That's if you get going right now and get the land out there with the planning consents. So the longer this goes on, the less likely we are to finish that 3 years with a massive Nike up swoosh of a graph in the number of houses we're building. But hey, if they want to give me the land, I'll give it a good go.
I always seem to see, no matter where I'm driving, I see huge housing estates going up everywhere. As someone who's not involved, I think, wow, there's another big estate going on. There's one in Abingdon just outside.
Yeah,
Within 3 months, they seem to have put up 500 houses either side of a roundabout, and a whole estate behind that coming together.
that might be one of ours actually. To be fair, but but if you yeah, another interesting thing, less than 7% of the whole of the British landmass is built on. Did you know that?
No, no, I
So
would have said
yeah,
that was the other way around almost.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's not. It's a very small fraction. And look, we one of the big problems is we don't have enough house builders, and you've got further consolidation where Barratt and Redrow are joining together. That's going to see a consolidation and a reduction, really, initially. Then you've got the anticipation of growth, but that's David Wilson, Barratt, and Redrow were three separate companies,
yeah,
not too far away. Vistry is now massive. They're consolidating, and you're seeing quite a few other big house builders coming together, and that's a risk. I think that's a really significant risk for the infrastructure and growth of the housing sector, because we need more, and we've lost a lot of SMEs. They were decimated in 2007, 2008. Regional family-run businesses that didn't come back, and we're seeing the same thing now. We've lost a lot of SMEs in the last 18 months that were well established, but have found it very difficult when we had the massive price inflation on materials, the reduction in getting materials, and the skill shortages. And I think all of that compounded is something I hope the government is really focused on, because that is absolutely key. More house builders.
yeah. Maybe we need to start knocking on the schools. There used to
Yes.
be apprentice schemes. We were talking this to Greg Reed from Places for People. He's built bringing in apprentices, and I
Yeah,
thought
we've
that was
got.
still commonplace to get them in, young
Uh,
people that aren't focused on going to university, that want to be outside doing things. And
do you know, I think it's a wonderful thing. We had an apprentice program. I had a graduate program at Cura. We've got a lot of apprentices in our organisation. I think it's fantastic to do it. But again, if you bring apprentices in, you've got to train them. So you've got
yeah,
people who are trying to do a full-time job have got to train. So you've got to have a really good structure about how your active operatives in whatever area can train those apprentices. So we've got apprentices in our marketing team. We've got them across the whole of our reactive maintenance teams. So we're trying to get there, and it's always good though. And I used to be a construction industry training ambassador, going into schools and colleges talking about. I started out in the RAF. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I ended up in house building. And you know, at the end of every conversation, somebody will put their hand up and go, "Yeah, but how much do you earn and what car do you drive?"
yeah, yeah. And how many followers do you have on your Instagram account?
Yeah. Well, yeah. This Twitter used to be the thing, didn't it? But yeah, that's the sort of stuff that they want to hear about and make it, exciting. We'd go out to fairs, graduate fairs, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
But the other thing is, if you're a successful organisation that's got a good reputation and treats your colleagues well, you will get, you'll have less of a challenge to get those skills in. So it really is important to have that good brand for future colleagues, but absolutely so the customer can look at you and go, yeah, do you know what? Then they're doing the right thing, and if they get it wrong, they'll fix it. So yeah,
that's what we like to hear. And as someone who's a resident, I don't mind, and I expect things to go wrong, and I don't. I can live with that when things go wrong. It's how you deal with it, and saying
yeah,
we're in this together, and we're struggling to build new homes, or we're struggling to maintain, or we don't have the infrastructure here. These are all valid reasons as to why Labour perhaps won't meet their target. I'm still optimistic
yeah.
that they might, even after having
I'm,
talked to you. Yeah.
I still am optimistic, but there's so many things that's got to come together and be well managed. And we've done it after the Second World War. And I
Yes.
think I said this at a recent conference. If we went to war tomorrow, they would galvanize the machines, the industry, the people, the skills to go to war, right?
Yeah.
If you thought about building houses, 1.5 million pound, 1.5 million houses in 5 years,
Yeah.
you'd have to mobilize like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you are. Let's go to
Come
war
on.
on it.
Come on, Angela Rayner. Let's go. All right. Look, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. And maybe we'll catch up in 6 months' time and get a bit of an update from you as to how it's all going. Good luck to everyone at Platform Housing.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Let us know if you'd like to come on and share your insights. This has been a Housing Sector podcast. Please like, subscribe, and check out past episodes.